I'm not sure how often it happens, but the feast we're celebrating, Our Lady of Lourdes, and the first reading fits together perfectly. Our Lady calls herself the Immaculate Conception. And in the first reading, so she is the new Eve. And in the first reading, we're hearing about the old Eve and the result of the sin that her and Adam committed. So what was the result? God has, God gave them a universal permission. He said, you can do anything you like. There were no rules, only one rule. This was it. Just don't eat from that tree. That's it. One rule. And they couldn't obey that one rule. In their pride, in their egoism, they sought to become like gods, and they were also deceived by Satan. And so here we're listening to the results. What are the effects of that original sin? Sin that affects not only on them, but also on us. We have strife. Well, first of all, shame, because they were naked before and there was no problem. But now they hide themselves. Where were you? We were naked, and so we hid ourselves. There's that shame. Also the shame because of their own sin. Strife. So the two of them are now fighting. Who did this? It's her fault. And herself, when she was asked, it's the serpent's fault. So there's now a division between man and woman. And we all know this in our own lives, not only between man and woman, but between human beings as a whole. There is now suffering. We hear in the first reading how Jesus feeds the 4,000, and in another reading he feeds the 5,000. And Jesus gives them food. They don't have to work for that food. And that was the reality in Eden. They wouldn't have had to work for their food and suffer for the food, but because of sin, now their food is through suffering and hard work, the sweat of their brow. Now, whereas childbirth would have been painless experience, now there's pain involved. So suffering comes into the world. Suffering and illness also, and death. And the Lord had said, if you eat of the tree of this tree, you will die. And Satan says, surely you won't die. The Lord won't strike you down and kill you. I'm changing the word slightly there. But the reality is, they do die. By eating of the tree, they die. And so all of us also experience death. We suffer and we die. That is part of our life now. Was it God's desire? Did God decide, I'm going to make these people, these creations of mine, suffer and die? Not at all. Suffering, as we're hearing in Genesis, was not God's plan. That people die is not part of God's plan. It's, as the Book of Wisdom says, it comes through the envy of Satan. And so we suffer, we die, we experience separation from God. Adam and Eve are cast out of Eden. And so there's separation from God, separation from one another, separation in ourselves. We all experience that sense of brokenness and disconnection in our own lives, and separation from nature, which now harms us instead of helps us. And we also now have this inclination towards evil. We know the good we should do, and yet we do the evil that it comes to hand. This is what St. Paul says about himself, and it's true for each one of us. Eve and Adam, created without sin. Mary, we celebrate today, calls herself, and is called by the Church, the Immaculate Conception. She is conceived immaculately, without sin. And we might think, well, that makes life easy for her, because she's immaculately conceived, then she can be pure and holy in ways that are unimaginable to us, because she doesn't have a life like ours. And actually, she probably had a life much like Adam and Eve. But the reality is, Adam and Eve, they were brought up without sin. They were brought up in a perfect world. Whereas with Mary, she was brought up in a world of sin and had the example of sin all around her, and yet chose not to sin. She is the remedy for Adam and Eve's fall. She brings forth the remedy, I should say, because it's her seed, Jesus Christ, who crushes Satan's head. It's her seed, that's you and I, who defeats the enemy. So she has given us the remedy, Jesus. She's given us the medicine for death, Jesus. And we come here at the Eucharist, receiving our medicine, receiving the bread of life, that we might live in union with God now and forever.